She wasn't wanted by her ex-husband, but everyone gasped when she returned with a billionaire. The champagne glass in Ryan's hand trembled as Clara walked through the ballroom doors. 2 years. It had been 2 years since he'd thrown her away like yesterday's newspaper. But this wasn't the broken woman who'd signed divorce papers with shaking hands. This Clara moved like royalty, dressed in silver that caught light like liquid mercury. And beside her, Damien Cross. The Damien Cross. The billionaire who turned down president's calls, who owned half of Manhattan, who had his pick of supermodels and heiresses. His hand rested possessively on Clara's waist as he leaned down, whispering something that made her laugh. That laugh Ryan once thought belonged to him. The entire ballroom had gone silent. Even the string quartet stopped playing. Ryan's new wife, Melissa, grabbed his arm. "Isn't that your pathetic ex-wife?" But there was nothing pathetic about Clara now. She looked like everything Ryan had spent 2 years trying to become. When her eyes finally met his across the room, there was no anger, no pain, just indifference. Like he was nobody, like he'd never mattered at all. That's when Damien Cross lifted Clara's hand to his lips, kissed it softly, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "You outshine everyone here, my love." How did the woman Ryan discarded become the one everyone couldn't stop watching? Before we dive into this incredible journey, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more stories about second chances and triumph over betrayal. 5 years earlier, Clara Jensen had been happy, not wealthy, not glamorous, but genuinely happy. She lived with Ryan Hale in a cramped apartment above a Chinese restaurant where the smell of sesame oil permanently clung to their clothes, but they were building something together, or so she thought. "Baby, look at this," Ryan would say, showing her spreadsheets and business plans late into the night. "We're going to make it. We're going to be somebody." Clara believed him. More importantly, she believed in them, in the story they were writing together. She'd been a promising fashion designer, fresh out of school with offers from established houses. But Ryan's dream seemed more urgent, more important somehow. "You can always go back to design," he'd said, kissing her forehead. "But this opportunity, this window for my business, it won't last forever." So Clara put her sketches away, stored her sewing machine, took a job as a receptionist to pay their bills, while Ryan built his digital marketing company from their kitchen table. Those early days were actually beautiful looking back, eating ramen at 2 a.m. while Ryan practiced his pitches. Clara modeling the one suit they could afford for him, teaching him how to tie a Windsor knot, celebrating their first client with champagne that cost $8. "We're partners," Ryan would say. "Everything I build is ours." Clara believed that too. When Ryan needed startup capital, Clara didn't hesitate. Her grandmother had left her $50,000, meant for Clara to start her own fashion line. Instead, she handed it to Ryan. "Are you sure?" he'd asked, but his hands were already reaching for the check. "Your dream is my dream," she'd said. The words would haunt her later. The business grew slowly at first, then explosively. Ryan landed a major corporate client, then another. Within 18 months, he'd gone from kitchen table to corner office, from 1 employee, Clara unpaid, to 50. That's when things started changing. "You need to dress better," Ryan said one morning, eyeing Clara's simple dress. "We have that investor dinner tonight. This is my best dress. It's not good enough. Not anymore." The words stung, but Clara told herself he was stressed. Success brought pressure. She bought a new dress with her receptionist salary. Ryan barely noticed. The investor dinners became networking events, became conferences Clara wasn't invited to. "It's really just business stuff," Ryan would say. "You'd be bored." "I helped build the business." "I know, baby, but this is different. This is next-level stuff." Next level. Clara started hearing that phrase a lot. Next-level opportunities, next-level connections, next-level people. People like Melissa Vaughn. Clara first heard the name at Ryan's company Christmas party, a party she almost wasn't invited to. "Melissa's father could open doors for us in Asia," someone said. "Smart of Ryan to bring her into the fold." "Bring her into the fold?" Clara asked. The employee looked uncomfortable. She's consulting on expansion. Melissa was 26, Harvard MBA, legs that went on forever, and a trust fund that went even longer. She looked at Clara the way someone might look at furniture, present but unimportant. "So you're the wife," Melissa said, though Clara noticed she already knew they weren't legally married. "Partner," Clara corrected. "Ryan and I are partners." Melissa's smile was sharp. "In what?" Clara didn't have an answer that sounded impressive. She couldn't say, "in everything," when she wasn't included in anything anymore. That night, Clara heard Ryan on the phone in his home office. She wasn't trying to eavesdrop, just bringing him tea like she always did. "She's holding me back," Ryan said. "Clara's sweet, but she's not. She doesn't fit anymore. I need someone who matches my level now." Clara stood frozen in the hallway, tea burning her hands through the mug. "No, I know. I'll handle it. Gently. She deserves that much." Deserves that much. Like she was an old dog being put down humanely. Clara set the tea outside his door and went to their bedroom, started at their closet. His side, new suits, Italian shoes, watches she didn't recognize. Her side, the same clothes she'd worn for years, carefully maintained but obviously dated. When had they become such different people? "We need to talk," Ryan said 3 days later. Clara had been expecting it, but her heart still shattered. "This isn't working anymore," he said, not quite meeting her eyes. Us, we've grown in different directions." "You mean you've grown and I've stayed the same?" "That's not..." He sighed. "Clara, you're wonderful. You've been amazing. But I need someone who understands my world now. I helped build your world. The foundation, yes, but not what it's becoming." "So Melissa understands your world?" Ryan had the decency to look ashamed. "It's not just about her." But it was. Clara could see it in his eyes. Melissa was everything Clara wasn't. Connected, polished, useful for business. "I want you to be happy," Ryan said. "I'll be fair in the settlement." Fair meant Clara got her clothes, her grandmother's jewelry box, empty now, the jewelry sold for Ryan's business, and $10,000. Ryan kept the apartment, the car, the company Clara had helped build with her sacrifice. "You could fight for more," her one friend Janet said. "With what lawyer? Besides, I just want this to be over." Have you ever been told you weren't enough? Share your story in the comments below. Clara moved into a studio apartment in a rough part of town. One room, one window facing a brick wall, one sewing machine she bought from a thrift store. The first month was the hardest. She'd catch herself setting 2 coffee cups out in the morning, reaching for her phone to text Ryan about something funny she'd seen, crying in the grocery store because she didn't know how to shop for one. But the second month, something shifted. Clara pulled out her old sketches, designs she'd drawn in college. They weren't next level, they were just hers. She started sewing at night after her receptionist job. One dress, then another. Each one a little better, a little more confident. The owner of a local boutique, Marie, noticed Clara sketching during her lunch break. "Those are beautiful," Marie said. "Do you sell them?" I don't know. I just make them." "Make me 5. If they sell, I'll order more." They sold in 3 days. "Make me 20, Marie said. Clara quit sleeping, worked her day job, sewed all night. Her fingers bled from needle pricks. Her back ached from hunching over the machine. But for the first time in years, she felt alive. That's when Stella Chen entered her life. Stella was a fashion stylist, notorious for discovering talent and equally notorious for crushing mediocrity. She walked into Marie's boutique looking for something specific. "I need a dress that says power without trying," Stella announced. Marie showed her Clara's latest creation, a black dress with subtle architectural elements, structure that suggested strength without aggression. "Who made this?" Stella demanded. "Local designer, Clara Jensen. I want to meet her." Clara met Stella at a coffee shop, wearing one of her own designs because she had nothing else clean. "That dress," Stella said instead of hello, "you're wearing your own work." Yes. Good. Designers who don't wear their own clothes are frauds. Show me your portfolio. I don't have one, just sketches. Show me those. Clara pulled out her worn notebook, pages soft from years of handling. Stella studied each design with an intensity that made Clara nervous. "You're untrained in business but trained in art," Stella finally said. "I went to design school but never practiced professionally." "Why?" "Life happened." Stella studied her. "A man happened." Clara's silence was confirmation. "They always do," Stella said. "But you're here now. I'm styling a fashion show next month. Small but influential. I want 3 of your pieces in it. I can't afford... I'll cover materials. You cover labor. Deal?" Clara worked 18-hour days creating those 3 pieces. Each had to be perfect, each was. The fashion show was in a converted warehouse. Maybe 200 people, but the right 200 people. Fashion bloggers, boutique owners, investors looking for the next big thing. Clara's pieces walked 7th, 15th, and 22nd. Each one made the audience lean forward. "Who is Clara Jensen?" she heard someone whisper. "Nobody knows. Stella found her." Those lines are extraordinary. That's when Damien Cross first heard her name. He wasn't at the show. Billionaires rarely attended small fashion events, but his assistant, Catherine, was. She had an eye for investments, particularly in fashion. "There's someone you should look at," Catherine told him, showing him photos from the show. "Clara Jensen, unknown, but look at this construction." Damien studied the images. The dresses were beautiful, but what caught his attention was the story Catherine told him. Apparently, she was discovered working as a receptionist, sewing at night in a studio apartment, completely self-funded, no backing, no connections, just talent. "Set up a meeting," Damien said. "You want to meet her personally, not just have me scout?" "I want to meet someone building something from nothing. It's rare these days." Clara got the call the next week. "Damien Cross wants to meet with you," Catherine said. Clara Googled him immediately. 38, self-made billionaire, started with tech but diversified into fashion, hospitality, art. Notorious for avoiding the spotlight, linked to various models and socialites but never seriously. "Why does he want to meet me?" "He's interested in investing in emerging designers." Clara's hands shook as she hung up. The meeting was at Damien's office, which took up the entire top floor of a Manhattan skyscraper. Clara wore her best design, trying not to be intimidated by the marble and glass and art that cost more than she'd see in a lifetime. Damien wasn't what she expected. She'd prepared for arrogance, for the kind of casual cruelty that wealth often brought. Instead, he was quiet, thoughtful, intense in his focus. "Tell me about this dress," he said, showing her a photo from the fashion show. "Which aspect?" "The inspiration." Clara looked at the image, one of her architectural pieces. "It's about structure that supports rather than constrains, strength that doesn't sacrifice grace." "That's technically interesting, but what's the emotional inspiration?" Clara hesitated. "It's about rebuilding after collapse." "Personal experience? Is there any other kind?" He smiled slightly. "No, there isn't." They talked for 2 hours. Not about business, not really, about art, about struggle, about the difference between creating for approval and creating for truth. "I want to invest," Damien said finally. "Just like that?" "Not just like that. I've done my research. You're talented, dedicated, and hungry. That's a rare combination." "What do you want in return?" 40% of the business." "That's a lot." "I'm offering a lot. Full funding, production facilities, marketing, distribution. You focus on design, I handle business." "I had a partner once who handled business. It didn't end well." Damien leaned back. "What happened?" "He decided I wasn't next level enough." His loss. Easy to say. Easy to prove. "Give me 6 months. If you don't like our partnership, you can buy me out for exactly what I put in. And if I do like it, then we build something extraordinary. Do you believe in second chances at love? Let me know in the comments." Clara said yes. Not because of the money, though she desperately needed it, but because Damien looked at her work and saw what she saw, not just fabric and thread, but story and possibility. The first collection under Lume Atelier launched 6 months later. Damien had kept his promise, funding without interfering, supporting without controlling. "You need to be at the launch," he told Clara. "I prefer to stay behind the scenes. Your story is part of the brand, the woman who rebuilt herself. That's private. Privacy is a luxury you can't afford yet. Later, when you're established, you can be mysterious. Now, you need to be relatable." He was right. The fashion press loved her story. The designer who gave up everything for love, lost it all, and rebuilt from nothing. "How do you feel about your ex now?" one reporter asked. "I'm grateful," Clara said, and meant it. "If he hadn't left, I'd never have found myself." The quote went viral. Ryan saw it, of course. Sitting in his office, now bigger, with a view of the city, Melissa beside him scrolling through her phone. "Your ex is getting attention," Melissa said, showing him the article. "Good for her," Ryan said, though something twisted in his chest. "She looks different. Better." She did. Clara in the photos looked confident, radiant, alive in a way she'd never looked with him. "It won't last," Ryan said. "Fashion is fickle." But it did last, and grow. Damien and Clara worked perfectly together. He never overshadowed her, never took credit for her creativity. He'd sit in her studio while she worked, handling his other businesses remotely, occasionally offering observations that were surprisingly insightful. "Why do you spend so much time here?" Clara asked one evening. "You have other investments." "None as interesting as this one." "Fashion is interesting to you? You're interesting to me." The air shifted. They'd been carefully professional for a year, but something had been building. Late nights working side by side, shared meals that went longer than necessary, conversations that veered from business to personal and back again. "Damien, I know, we're business partners, but Clara, I need you to know something." "What?" "I didn't invest in your business. I invested in you. The business is just the excuse to be near you." Clara's breath caught. "You could be near anyone." "I don't want anyone. I want the woman who took heartbreak and turned it into art, who works 18-hour days not for money but for meaning, who looks at the world and sees possibility where others see problems." "I'm not ready. I'm not asking you to be ready. I'm just telling you I'll be here when you are." That night, Clara went home and cried, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming feeling of being seen, really seen, not as a support system or a stepping stone, but as herself. 3 months later, at the spring collection launch, Clara found herself looking for Damien in the crowd. He was always there, but never intrusive, proud, but not possessive. "You love him," Stella said bluntly. "I can't." "Why?" "Because last time I loved someone, I lost myself." "No. Last time you gave yourself away. There's a difference between sharing yourself and erasing yourself." That night, after the successful show, Clara found Damien on the balcony of the venue. "Hiding?" she asked. "Enjoying. Watching your success from a perfect vantage point." "Our success? No, this is yours. I just provided scaffolding." "You provided more than that." "What did I provide?" Clara stepped closer. "Safety, space, respect. Everything I didn't know I needed." "Clara." She kissed him. Soft, tentative, but certain. "I'm ready," she whispered. "Are you sure?" "I've been sure for months, just scared." "Of what?" "Of losing myself again." "You won't." "How do you know?" "Because I won't let you. Your voice, your vision, your strength. That's what I fell in love with. Why would I want to diminish that?" They became a couple quietly, privately. No grand announcements, just a gradual shift that those close to them noticed. "You're different," Marie observed, visiting Clara's new studio. "How?" "Softer, but also stronger, like you're not fighting anymore." She wasn't. For the first time in years, Clara wasn't fighting to be seen, to be heard, to be enough. She just was. The Business Vogue cover came 18 months later. The Woman Who Rose from Ashes, the headline read. The article detailed Clara's journey, the sacrifice, the abandonment, the rebuild. It mentioned Damien, but focused on Clara's vision, her work, her triumph. Ryan definitely saw that one. His company had plateaued. Melissa's connections hadn't materialized into the expansion he'd hoped for. She spent more money than they made, and her father had cut her off after bad investments. "We should go," Melissa said, showing him an invitation. It was to a charity gala in their hometown, the same one Ryan's company had sponsored for 3 years running. "Clara will probably be there," Ryan said carefully. "So? She's nobody to us." But she wasn't nobody anymore. She was somebody. Somebody featured in magazines. Somebody building an empire. Somebody who'd found success without him. "We should go," he agreed, for reasons he couldn't quite name. Clara had received the same invitation. "We don't have to go," Damien said, reading her expression. "It's for charity. Children's Hospital. I want to go." "But Ryan will be there. And I don't know how I'll feel seeing him." Damien took her hands. "You'll feel exactly what you feel, and whatever that is, it's valid. What if I'm angry? Then be angry. What if I'm sad? Then be sad. What if I feel nothing? Then feel nothing. You make it sound simple. Emotions are simple. It's the stories we tell about them that get complicated." The night of the gala, Clara stood in front of the mirror in the silver gown she'd designed specifically for this event. It wasn't about impressing Ryan. It was about expressing herself, fluid, strong, luminous. "You look like starlight," Damien said from the doorway. "Too much?" "Perfect. Exactly perfect." They drove to the venue, Damien's hand warm in hers. "Whatever happens tonight," he said, "remember, you're not the woman he left. You're the woman you chose to become. Subscribe if you believe the best revenge is happiness without bitterness." They walked in together, and time seemed to stop. Clara had prepared for seeing Ryan. What she hadn't prepared for was how small he looked, not physically but energetically, like he'd shrunk while she'd expanded. The whispers started immediately. "Is that Clara Jensen? The designer? With Damien Cross? They're together? Look at that dress. She designed it herself. She looks incredible." Ryan stood frozen across the room. Melissa tugged at his arm, hissing something, but he couldn't move. This wasn't his Clara. His Clara had been quiet, accommodating background. This Clara commanded the room without trying. Damien leaned down, whispered something in her ear. She laughed, bright, genuine, uninhibited. When had he last made her laugh like that? "Stop staring!" Melissa snapped. But everyone was staring. How could they not? Clara moved through the room with grace, talking to people who approached her, not seeking attention, but not shrinking from it either. Then their eyes met. Ryan expected anger, or hurt, or something that acknowledged what they'd been to each other. Instead, Clara looked at him the way she might look at a stranger. Polite acknowledgement, then moving on. It was devastating. He approached her when Damien stepped away to get drinks. "Clara, Ryan, you look, well. I am well. The business seems to be going great." "It is. I'm happy for you. Thank you." The conversation was polite, empty, nothing. "Clara, He stopped, not sure what he wanted to say. "Sorry? I made a mistake? I miss you?" "You what?" she asked, patient but detached. "I hope you're happy." "I am. Genuinely, completely happy." Damien returned, handed Clara champagne, extended his hand to Ryan. Damien Cross. Ryan Hale. Ah, the ex. Just that, the ex. Not the man who built a company with Clara's help, not the man who'd shared 5 years with her. Just the ex. "I hear your business is doing well," Damien said politely. "It's fine." Fine. Ryan hated how the word sounded. Adequate. Mediocre. Not next level at all. "Clara's work is extraordinary, isn't it?" Damien said, his pride evident. "Though I suppose you always knew she was talented." Yes. No, Clara said quietly. He didn't. The words hung in the air. If he had, Clara continued, not cruel, just factual, things would have been different. Clara, Ryan started. It's fine, she said. Really. We wanted different things. You wanted next level. I wanted depth. We both got what we wanted. Melissa appeared, possessive hand on Ryan's arm. We should go, she said, glaring at Clara. Of course, Clara said pleasantly. Lovely to see you both. As they walked away, Damien said loud enough to be heard, You outshine everyone here, my love, and kissed her hand with such tenderness that the entire room seemed to sigh. Ryan left shortly after, Melissa complaining the entire way home about Clara showing off. But Clara wasn't showing off. She was just living, fully, completely, authentically. How do you feel? Damien asked later as they danced. Free, Clara said. I thought I'd feel vindicated or vengeful, but I just feel free. Free from what? From the story that I wasn't enough. He was right. I wasn't enough for his vision, but his vision was small, limited, transactional. And now? Now I'm enough for my own vision, and that's all that matters. You're more than enough, Damien corrected. You're everything. They danced until the music stopped. Two people who'd found each other, not in spite of their pasts, but because of them. Ryan watched from his car in the parking lot, unable to leave yet. Through the windows, he could see them dancing, Clara glowing, Damien looking at her like she was precious. That's what he'd missed, Ryan realized. Not Clara's potential for success. She'd clearly had that all along, but her preciousness, her worth beyond utility. He'd traded gold for brass because the brass was shinier. His phone buzzed. Melissa, already home, already angry about something. He drove home to his next-level life, the apartment that felt empty despite its luxury, the business that made money but meant nothing, the woman who looked perfect but felt hollow. Meanwhile, Clara went home with Damien to their converted loft, filled with fabric and sketches and life. No regrets? Damien asked their evening ritual. Only one. What? That I didn't leave Ryan sooner. You left exactly when you were meant to. How do you know? Because you left when you were ready to find yourself, not just escape him. And that led me to you. That led you to you. I was just lucky enough to be there when you arrived. They made love slowly, tenderly, with the kind of intimacy that comes from being truly known. Later, Clara couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, looking at the city lights, thinking about the journey. What is it? Damien asked, joining her. I was thinking about the Clara who signed those divorce papers. Broken, lost, convinced she was worthless. And I wish I could tell her it would be okay. More than okay. Magnificent. She knows now. She does. What would you tell her if you could? Clara thought about it. That Ryan leaving wasn't the end. It was the beginning. That she was always enough just for the wrong person. That someday someone would see her, really see her, and love what they saw. And did someone? Someone did, she smiled, leaning into him. But more importantly, she saw herself. A year later, Lume Atelier showed at Paris Fashion Week. Clara stood backstage, nervous but ready. You've got this, Damien said, hands on her shoulders. What if they don't like it? Impossible. You're biased. I'm right. The show was a triumph. Standing ovation. Orders from every major department store. But what mattered most was the moment after, when Clara stood on the empty runway, Damien beside her, and felt complete. Not because of success, not because of revenge, but because she'd built something real from the ashes of something false. I love you, she told Damien. I love you too. No, I love you for letting me be myself. I love yourself too, she's magnificent. Ryan read about the Paris show in the Times. By then, his marriage to Melissa had ended. She'd found someone with more money, just as she'd found Ryan when he had more than her previous boyfriend. He was back in a small apartment, his company downsized after bad investments Melissa had pushed. The photo of Clara on the runway, radiant in her success, made him realize something. She hadn't succeeded to spite him. She'd succeeded because he'd freed her to become who she was meant to be. His leaving had been the best thing that ever happened to her, and the worst thing that had happened to him, because he'd had love, real, supportive, transformative love, and thrown it away for an image of success that turned out to be empty. Clara never thought about Ryan anymore. Her life was too full of love, of purpose, of the family she and Damien were building. When they married, it was small, intimate, real. No show, no networking, just commitment. "You know what I love most about us?" Clara said on their wedding night. "What?" "That you never tried to save me. You didn't need saving. I needed space to save myself. And you did. With you beside me, not in front of me. Always beside you, never in front, never behind, beside." They had 2 children, opened ateliers in New York, Paris, Tokyo, won awards, lost some, won more. But success wasn't the point anymore. The point was Sunday mornings in bed with their children, teaching their daughter to sew, watching their son paint, Damien bringing Clara coffee exactly how she liked it, Clara leaving post-it love notes in Damien's briefcase. The point was partnership, real partnership, the kind where both people grow. 10 years after that gala, Clara received a letter, Ryan's handwriting. "Clara, you don't owe me a response or even a reading of this, but I needed to say thank you for the years you gave me, for the sacrifice I didn't deserve, for the grace you showed when I showed none. Mostly, thank you for becoming who you are. It shows me what I missed, what I was too small to see. You were always enough. I just wasn't enough to recognize it. Be happy. You deserve everything beautiful. Ryan." Clara read it once, then threw it away. Not from anger, from closure. Ryan was a chapter in her story, but not one worth rereading. "Who was that from?" Damien asked. "The past. Important. Not anymore." That night, at their own charity gala, the Clara and Damien Cross Foundation for Emerging Artists, Clara stood in another silver gown, this one more elaborate, more confident. "You know what's different about tonight?" she asked Damien. "What?" "I'm not wearing this dress to prove anything. I'm wearing it because I love it. That's the only reason to do anything. It took me so long to learn that. You learned it exactly when you needed to." The gala raised millions, funded dozens of artists, changed lives. But what Clara remembered most was dancing with Damien, their children watching from the balcony where the babysitter let them sneak out to see. "Mommy looks like a princess," their daughter said. "Daddy looks like a prince," their son added. "They look like love," the babysitter said, wiser than her years. And they did. Not the desperate love of youth, not the transactional love of convenience, but the deep, quiet, powerful love of 2 people who chose each other with eyes wide open. "Thank you," Clara whispered to Damien as they danced. "For what?" "For seeing me when I couldn't see myself. Thank you for becoming visible. I was always visible. I just needed someone who was looking. I'll never stop looking. Promise? Promise." They danced on, the woman who wasn't wanted, and the man who wanted only her, proof that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's happiness, pure, earned, chosen happiness. The kind that comes not from proving your worth to someone who didn't see it, but from finally, fully seeing it yourself. The years that followed were not without challenges. When Clara was 35, Lumet Atelier faced its first major crisis. A manufacturer had used substandard materials and an entire collection had to be recalled. "We're going to lose everything," Clara said, staring at the numbers. "No," Damien said firmly. "We're going to lose money. There's a difference. The reputation damage will be temporary if we handle it right." "How?" "By doing what Ryan never did, taking responsibility." Clara held a press conference, personally apologizing to every customer. She refunded everyone in full, even those who wanted to keep the pieces. She redesigned the entire collection with better materials, eating the cost herself. "You're being too generous," her CFO warned. "I'm being honest," Clara corrected. The response was overwhelming. Customers praised her integrity. Orders increased rather than decreased. The fashion press called it the most elegant handling of a crisis in industry history. Ryan, watching from his struggling business, took notes. When his own company faced issues, he tried Clara's approach: transparency, responsibility, generosity. It worked. His business stabilized, though it never reached the heights he'd once imagined. "You learned something," Melissa said during one of their awkward co-parenting meetings. They'd had a son before divorcing, and despite everything, they tried to be civil for him. "I learned from Clara," Ryan admitted. "Still hung up on her?" "No, just finally understanding what I had and what I lost. She seems happy. She is, genuinely happy. The kind I don't think we ever were." Melissa was quiet. "We were performing happiness. She's living it." "Yeah. Our son asked me why we divorced. What did you tell him?" "That we loved the idea of each other more than the reality." "That's honest." "I learned that from Clara, too, through the press. Her honesty about everything." They sat in uncomfortable silence, two people who'd reached for brass rings and found them hollow. Meanwhile, Clara's life continued to expand, not just in business, but in depth. When Damien's mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, Clara became her primary caregiver. "You don't have to do this," Damien said, watching Clara gently help his mother eat. "She's family. She doesn't even recognize you half the time." "But I recognize her as the woman who raised the man I love." Damien's mother lived with them for 3 years. It was hard, exhausting, heartbreaking, but Clara never complained. "Why?" Damien asked one particularly difficult night. "Because love isn't just for the easy moments. It's especially for the hard ones." When his mother passed, Damien grieved deeply. Clara held him through it, the way he'd held her through her own losses. "I don't deserve you," he said one night. "Don't say that. You gave up 3 years of your life for my mother. I gave 3 years of my life to your mother, and to you. That's not a sacrifice. That's a choice. Most people wouldn't make that choice. I'm not most people, and neither are you. You supported my dream when you didn't have to. You saw my worth when I couldn't. You loved me when I didn't love myself. 3 years of caregiving doesn't begin to balance that ledger. There's no ledger in love." "Exactly." Their children grew watching this, real love in action. Not the Instagram perfect moments, but the 3 a.m. hospital runs, the held hair during stomach flu, the quiet support during failures. "Mom," their daughter Sophie asked at 16, "how do you know if someone really loves you?" Clara thought carefully. "They see you at your worst and don't run. They celebrate your success without feeling diminished. They choose you every day, especially the hard days." "Like Dad does." "Like Dad does. I want that someday." "Then don't settle for less." "Did you ever settle?" Clara thought about Ryan. "Once. But it taught me what settling felt like, so I never did it again." Sophie would remember this conversation years later when choosing her own partner. Their son, Marcus, was more like Damien, quiet, observant, strategic. "Dad," he asked at 14, "why did you pick Mom?" "I didn't pick her. I recognized her." "What's the difference?" "Picking implies choice among options. Recognition implies finding something you didn't know you were looking for, but immediately knew was right." "How did you know?" She looked at the world and saw possibility where others saw problems. She took pain and made it into beauty. She was kind without being weak, strong without being harsh. How could I not recognize that as extraordinary? Marcus filed this away, later becoming an artist himself, always looking for the extraordinary in the ordinary. When Clara turned 40, Damien threw her a surprise party. Not a huge gala, but an intimate gathering of people who really knew her. Stella was there, now in her 70s, but still fierce. "You exceeded my expectations," she told Clara. Your expectations were high. Your achievements were higher. Marie from the boutique, who now managed one of Clara's stores. You remembered me, she said, tearful. You gave me my first chance. How could I forget? Even Janet, her friend from the divorce days. You did it, Janet said. You really rebuilt. We all rebuild, every day. That's what life is. The biggest surprise was a video message from unexpected sources. Young designers Clara had mentored, women who'd escaped bad marriages through the foundation, artists who'd been funded by their charity, each one saying the same thing in different ways. You showed me what was possible, Clara cried through the entire video. You did that, Damien said. You changed those lives. We did that. No, I just provided resources. You provided inspiration. Inspiration without resources is just frustration. Resources without inspiration are just waste. So we're perfect together. We're perfect together. That night, after everyone left, Clara found a letter on her pillow. From Damien. My darling Clara, 15 years ago, you walked into my office wearing your own design and carrying a notebook full of dreams. You were nervous but determined, broken but building. I told you I wanted to invest in your business. That was a lie. I wanted to invest in you, in your vision, in your voice, in your refusal to let heartbreak be your ending. Every day since, you've proven that investment wise. Not in returns, though those have been substantial, but in the woman you've become. Or rather, the woman you always were but finally let the world see. You think I gave you wings. The truth is, you already had them. I just gave you sky. Thank you for 15 years of flight. Forever yours, Damien. Clara found him on their balcony, looking at the city lights. You're going to make me cry again, she said. Good tears. The best tears. They stood together, looking at the life they'd built. Not just the visible success, the company, the foundation, the wealth, but the invisible success, the trust, the partnership, the deepening love. Do you ever think about what would have happened if Ryan hadn't left? Damien asked. Never. Really? Why would I think about a smaller life when I'm living this one? It might have been good with him. It would have been adequate, safe, small. I would have been his support system forever, never my own person. You don't know that. I do, because that's who I was then. I needed the breaking to become who I am now. So you're grateful he left? I'm grateful for everything. The pain taught me strength. The loss taught me value. The solitude taught me self. Without all of that, I'd never have been ready for you. I wasn't ready for you either. If we'd met earlier, you'd have seen me as an investment opportunity. And you'd have seen me as another man to serve. So we met at exactly the right time. The perfect time. A year later, Clara received unexpected news. Ryan had died. Heart attack at 41, the stress of business, the loneliness of success without meaning. She went to the funeral, not from obligation but from compassion. Melissa was there, remarried but sad. He never got over you, she told Clara quietly. He never got over the idea of me. He never actually knew me. No, he didn't. He didn't know me either. We were props in each other's ambition. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. I'm sorry for yours too. I lost Ryan long before he died. I mourned him then. Clara left a white rose on the casket, for the boy she'd loved in that cramped apartment, for the dreams they'd shared before ambition poisoned them, for the lesson he'd taught her by leaving. You okay? Damien asked when she returned home. Yes, sad, but okay. Sad for him? Sad for the life he could have had if he'd valued the right things. We all choose our values. Yes, and live with the consequences. That night, Clara held Damien extra tight. Promise me something. Anything. If we ever start valuing the wrong things, we'll call each other on it. We will. We always have. I mean it. Success can be poisonous. Only if you drink it straight. We've always diluted ours with love. 5 years later, at 46, Clara stood in the Museum of Modern Art, looking at a retrospective of her work. 25 years of design, from those first desperate dresses in her studio apartment to the elaborate gowns worn by celebrities. "How does it feel?" a reporter asked. "Surreal. Your journey has been remarkable, from abandoned first wife to fashion icon." "I was never abandoned. I was released. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Abandonment implies being left with nothing. Release implies being freed for everything." Sophie, now 21 and a doctor, stood beside her. "Mom's being modest. She rebuilt from scratch." "Not from scratch," Clara corrected. "From truth. I always had talent. I just needed to believe in it." Marcus, 19 and studying architecture, added, "She taught us that failure isn't falling down, it's staying down." "Where's Mr. Cross?" the reporter asked. "Handling a crisis in Tokyo. He'll be here tomorrow." "You two have been together almost 20 years. What's the secret?" "No secret, just choice. We choose each other every day." "Even the bad days?" "Especially the bad days. Anyone can love on good days." The retrospective was a massive success. But what Clara treasured most was the quiet moment after everyone left, when she stood alone among her creations. Each piece told a story: the desperate hope of early designs, the growing confidence of middle years, the assured artistry of recent work. "You did it," she whispered to her younger self. Damien arrived the next morning, straight from the airport. "I'm sorry I missed it," he said. "You were handling our Tokyo crisis." "Still." "Damien, you've been to every show for 20 years. Missing one celebration doesn't erase that. I wanted to be there. You were, in every piece. You're woven into everything I create." "How?" "Because you gave me the safety to risk, the support to fail, the love to flourish. Every design has your faith stitched into it." He kissed her deeply, right there in the museum. "Get a room," Sophie laughed, arriving with coffee. "We have several," Damien replied, making his daughter groan. "Parents are so embarrassing." "Good, that's our job." The family spent the day together, wandering New York, eating at their favorite hole-in-the-wall restaurant, being normal despite their abnormal success. "You know what I love about us?" Clara said that evening. "What?" "We never forgot who we are beneath what we've achieved." "Who are we?" "Two people who chose love over image, depth over surface, meaning over money." "We have money too," Marcus pointed out. "Yes, but it's not why we're happy." "Why are we happy?" Sophie asked. Clara looked at her family, her chosen life, her built happiness. "Because we know what matters, and we choose it every day." That night in their bedroom, Damien said, "I have something to tell you." Clara's heart skipped. "What?" "I'm retiring." "What?" "I'm 58. I've made more money than we can spend in 3 lifetimes. I want to spend whatever time I have left just living." "But the companies will run themselves. I've built good teams." "What will you do?" "Watch you create, travel with you, embarrass our children, love you without distraction." Clara kissed him. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." "People will think you're crazy." "Let them." "Retiring at 58? Choosing life at 58. They announced it the next month. The business press was shocked. Damien Cross walking away at the height of his power. "Why?" everyone asked. "Because I've won everything I wanted to win. Now I want to live everything I want to live." Ryan would never have understood this choice. He died at his desk, working on another deal, another acquisition, another empty victory. But Clara understood. Damien wasn't retiring from something. He was retiring to something. To them, to life beyond achievement. Their days became simpler, morning coffee lasting hours, afternoon walks through the city, evening dinners that stretched past midnight. "Are you bored?" Clara asked after 6 months. "Never." "Don't you miss the action?" "I'm living the action, real action, the action of presence." "That's very zen." "That's very true." On Clara's 50th birthday, something unexpected happened. A young woman appeared at her studio, nervous and holding a portfolio. "Ms. Jensen, I mean Ms. Cross." "Clara is fine. How can I help you? My name is Amanda Hale. I'm Ryan's daughter. Clara's breath caught. I didn't know Ryan had... From his second marriage, after Melissa, he married briefly again. My mom left when I was 2. Clara studied the girl, maybe 22, Ryan's eyes but softer, less calculating. What can I do for you, Amanda? I'm a designer, or trying to be. I've been following your work since I was 15. I didn't know you were... that you and my father... It was a long time ago. He talked about you, near the end. Said you were the only real thing in his life. Clara didn't know what to say to that. I'm not here for money or connections, Amanda continued quickly. I wanted to meet the woman who became everything my father couldn't. Your father was successful. He was rich, there's a difference. You're successful. You have a family, a legacy, love. He had stock options and regrets. Clara looked at the portfolio Amanda was clutching. Are those your designs? Yes, I know it's presumptuous, but may I see them? Amanda handed over the portfolio with shaking hands. Clara studied each design carefully. They were good, raw, but good. More importantly, they had voice. Something Ryan never had, authentic perspective. These are promising, Clara said. Really? Really? You have your father's ambition, but with actual vision behind it. I don't want to be like him. Then don't be. Choose differently. How? Clara thought about it. Value people over profit, creation over acquisition, depth over surface. Is that what you did? That's what I learned to do, after your father taught me what happened when you didn't. Would you... Amanda started, then stopped. What? Would you consider mentoring me? I know it's a lot to ask, given the history. The history is exactly why I'll say yes. Really? Your father and I built something together once. It failed because we built it on the wrong foundation. Maybe you and I can build something better. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. He said you were kind. Even after everything, he said you were the kindest person he'd ever known. Kindness is a choice, one your father forgot he had. Amanda became Clara's protégée, not officially. Clara didn't want the press to make a story of it, but she came to the studio twice a week, learned, observed, grew. She's talented, Damien observed, watching Amanda work. She's hungry, but for the right things. Unlike her father. Her father was hungry for status. She's hungry for skill. That's a crucial difference. It's everything. One day, Amanda asked the question Clara had been expecting. Why did you really leave my father? He never told the truth about it. Clara considered her words carefully. I didn't leave him. He left me, for someone who better fit his image of success. Melissa. Yes. He left her too, for my mom, then left my mom for another idea of success. Your father was always chasing the next level. He never realized the level he was on was enough. Were you angry? Devastated. Then angry. Then grateful. Grateful? If he hadn't left, I'd never have found myself, or Damien, or this life. So you forgive him? I forgave him long ago. For me, not for him. Carrying anger is exhausting. Amanda worked in silence for a while, then said, I think he never forgave himself. That was his choice too. 6 months later, Amanda's first piece was included in Clara's spring show. A simple dress, but with clear voice. I'm proud of you, Clara told her. My father would have been proud too. No, he would have been networking at the after-party. There's a difference between pride and opportunity-seeking. You really saw him clearly. Eventually. Love can be blind, but life has a way of providing glasses. The fashion world began to notice Amanda Hale, not as Ryan's daughter or Clara's protégée, but as herself. How does it feel? Clara asked after Amanda's first solo show. Terrifying, exhilarating, real. Hold on to that. The moment it stops feeling real, you're lost. Is that what happened to my father? Your father confused real with profitable. They're not the same. But you're profitable. Profit followed purpose. For your father, profit was the purpose. Amanda succeeded on her own terms. Clara watched with pride, knowing she'd helped break the cycle Ryan had started. At 55, Clara made a decision. "I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations," she announced to her team. "But Clara, you are Lumet Atelier." "No, I was Lumet Atelier. Now it's bigger than me. It should be." She promoted her head designer, kept creative control but released daily management. "Why?" Sophie asked. "Because I want to create without the pressure of commerce, pure art." "Isn't that risky?" "Everything worth doing is risky." Clara's first pure art collection was unveiled at the Venice Biennale. No prices, not for sale, just expression. The fashion world was confused. Why would Clara Cross, at the height of her commercial success, abandon profit? "I'm not abandoning anything," she told reporters. "I'm expanding. Commercial success was one mountain, this is another. But why? Because I can. Because I want to see what I create when money isn't the motive." The collection was controversial. Some called it genius, others called it indulgent. Clara didn't care. For the first time in decades, she was creating purely for the joy of creation. "You're brave," Damien told her. "I'm free." Same thing. No. Bravery is acting despite fear. Freedom is acting without it. "And you're not afraid?" "Of what?" "Failure. I've failed before. Criticism. I've been criticized before. Loss. I've lost before. There's nothing left to fear." That freedom produced Clara's most innovative work, pieces that challenged what fashion could be, wearable sculptures, emotional architecture in fabric. "I don't understand it," Melissa said, appearing at one show. Clara was surprised to see her. They'd had no contact since Ryan's funeral. "You don't have to understand it, just feel it." "I don't know how to feel art." "You do. You just forgot." "We all forget, chasing other things. Like money. Like approval. Money's just one form of approval." Melissa studied Clara. Still beautiful at 55, but more than that. Luminous with purpose. "I wasted my life," Melissa said suddenly. "No life is wasted, just some are less lived. I chose wrong, every time." "Then choose differently now." "I'm 48, it's too late. I was 32 when I started over. You have 16 years on me. But you had talent. Everyone has something. You just have to find it. What if I don't have anything?" Clara looked at this woman who'd been her replacement, her opposite, her shadow. "You have experience. Use it." "How?" "Teach others what not to do. Sometimes that's the most valuable lesson." Melissa laughed bitterly. A cautionary tale. A truthful voice. "Do you know how many women are where you were? Choosing surface over depth. Help them choose better." That conversation planted a seed. Melissa later wrote a book, The Trophy Wife's Lament, How I Chose Everything Wrong and Finally Got It Right. It became a bestseller. Not because it was well written, but because it was honest. Clara sent a congratulations note. Melissa sent back 2 words. "Thank you." Forgiveness, Clara had learned, wasn't just for those who wronged you. It was for those you wronged by existing in their path. At 60, Clara and Damien renewed their vows. Not publicly, just family on a beach at sunset. 25 years, Damien said in his vows. 25 years of choosing you. Not once have I regretted it. 25 years, Clara replied, of being chosen, of choosing back, of building something I didn't know was possible until you showed me. Sophie, now 30 and married with twin daughters, cried through the ceremony. Marcus, 28, and engaged to a painter he'd met at art school, said, "You two ruined love for everyone else. How can we compete with this?" "Don't compete," Clara said. "Create your own version." "But yours is perfect." "Ours is worn smooth by years of friction. Yours will be too if you keep choosing it." That night, their grandchildren played in the sand while adults drank wine and told stories. "Grandma," one twin asked, "were you always happy?" "No, sweetheart, but I learned how to be." "How?" "By choosing what mattered over what glittered." "What's the difference?" Clara thought about Ryan, about the life she'd almost lived, about the person she'd almost remained. What matters stays warm even in the cold. What glitters only shines in good light. The child didn't understand, but someday would. Damien took Clara's hand. No regrets? None. You? One. What? That we only get one lifetime together. Who says? Biology. Biology doesn't account for impact. The life we've built will outlive us. In the children? In the choices. Every woman who leaves a bad relationship because our story gave her courage. Every artist who chooses authenticity because we proved it profitable. Every person who decides love matters more than image. That's a lot of impact. That's the only success that matters. They sat on the beach until dawn, 60 and 70, but still those two people who'd chosen depth over surface, love over image, building over taking. Ryan had been dead almost 20 years, but his leaving remained the gift that kept giving. Not because Clara held onto it, but because she'd transformed it into fuel for becoming. Thank you, she whispered to the sunrise. For what? Damien asked. For seeing me when I was invisible. You were never invisible, just hidden. Same thing. No, invisible means not there. Hidden means waiting to be found. I just had better eyes than most. The best eyes. The luckiest eyes. As the sun rose on their renewed marriage, their rebuilt life, their chosen family, Clara knew the truth. Sometimes the worst thing that happens becomes the best thing that could have happened. Ryan leaving had seemed like death. It had actually been birth. The birth of Clara as herself, not as someone's support system. The birth of a love based on equality, not utility. The birth of success defined by meaning, not just money. I love you, she told Damien. I love you too. 5 years later, at 65, Clara received an unexpected honor. The Fashion Institute of Technology wanted to create the Clara Cross Archive, a permanent collection of her work and philosophy. Why me? She asked the director. Because you represent more than fashion. You represent resilience, authenticity, and the power of starting over. The opening was a major event. Designers from around the world came to study her journey from abandoned wife to industry icon. Amanda Hale gave the keynote speech. Clara Cross didn't just teach me design, Amanda said. She taught me that success without soul is just expensive failure. My father knew how to make money. Clara knows how to make meaning. In the audience, Clara spotted familiar faces. Marie, now in her 80s, still sharp. Stella's daughter, continuing her mother's legacy. Even Janet, her old friend from the divorce days. Look at what you built from nothing, Janet whispered. Not from nothing. From pain transformed into purpose. The archive included Clara's first design, the dress she'd made in that tiny apartment, crying over Ryan's betrayal. Next to it, her latest creation, made with joy alongside Damien. The contrast is striking, a young designer observed. No, Clara corrected. The evolution is natural. Pain teaches what joy cannot. Do you miss who you were? I'm grateful for who I was. She was brave enough to become who I am. That night, Damien surprised her with something unexpected. I bought something, he said. What now? Another company? No. Remember that apartment? The one above the Chinese restaurant where you lived with Ryan? Clara's breath caught. Yes, I bought the building. Why? To turn it into affordable housing for women starting over, the Clara Cross Second Chance Residences, Clara cried. That's where I was happiest with Ryan, before success poisoned everything. Now it can be where other women find happiness after leaving their Ryans. You're extraordinary. I learned from the best. The first resident moved in 6 months later. Sarah, 34, 2 kids, leaving an emotionally abusive marriage. Thank you, Sarah said, tears streaming. Don't thank me. Just rebuild. Then help someone else rebuild. How did you do it? Start over with nothing. Clara thought back to those dark days. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one stitch at a time. Were you scared? Terrified? But terror and courage aren't opposites. They're dance partners. I don't know how to dance. Then learn. I did. Sarah would. Within 5 years, she'd own a small catering business, employed 3 other women from the residences. The ripple effects continued. Sophie wrote a book about growing up with parents who chose love daily. It became required reading in sociology classes, studying modern marriage. Marcus designed buildings that prioritized community over commerce, inspired by watching his parents build emotional architecture. Their grandchildren grew up knowing that success meant different things to different people, but happiness meant the same thing to everyone: being seen, valued, and chosen. At 70, Clara faced her biggest challenge yet. Diagnosis: breast cancer. Stage 2, treatable, but serious. "We'll fight this," Damien said, holding her hand in the oncologist's office. "We?" "Every step, every treatment, every moment. You're 75. You don't need, I need you. Everything else is negotiable." The treatment was brutal. Chemotherapy ravaged her body. Surgery took pieces of her. Radiation burned what remained. But Damien was there. Every appointment, every sick morning, every sleepless night. "This isn't what you signed up for," Clara said one particularly bad day. "I signed up for you. All of you. Including this. I'm not beautiful anymore. You're magnificent. Battle-scarred and magnificent. I might not make it. Then we'll make every moment count. How are you so strong?" "I'm not strong. I'm committed. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Strong implies natural ability. Committed implies choice. I choose you even in this, especially in this." Clara survived, beaten, exhausted, but alive. The fashion world expected her to hide, to recover privately. Instead, she walked the runway at her next show. Bald from chemo, thin from treatment, but radiant with survival. "This is what strength looks like," she said to the stunned audience. "Not perfect, not pretty, but present." The standing ovation lasted 10 minutes. Ryan would have hidden such vulnerability. Damien celebrated it. "You're the bravest person I know," he said that night. "I'm just visible. Most people hide their battles. That's what makes you brave, the visibility. I want other women to know that falling apart isn't failure. It's just another form of rebuilding." The cancer stayed in remission. Clara grew her hair back silver, refusing to dye it. "You look like a goddess," Damien said. "I look like a survivor." Same thing. At 73, Clara did something unexpected. She went back to school. Not fashion school, philosophy. "Why?" everyone asked. "Because I want to understand not just how to create, but why creation matters." "You already know that." "I know it instinctively. I want to know it intellectually." She was the oldest student in her classes, but also the most engaged. "Mrs. Cross," a young student asked, "don't you already know everything?" "I know one thing: the more you learn, the less you know." That's depressing. That's liberating. It means there's always more to discover. Her thesis was on transformation through trauma, using fashion as metaphor for rebuilding identity. The professor called it groundbreaking work that bridges theory and lived experience. Clara called it understanding my own story. At her graduation, Damien, now 80, walked slowly but proudly beside her. "Dr. Cross," he said, "it suits you. We're quite a pair, the billionaire and the philosopher. The lovers who chose each other through everything. That's the better title." At 75, Clara made her final public appearance at the Met Gala. The theme was resilience, inspired by her life story. She wore the first dress she'd designed after Ryan left, altered to fit her current body. "Why that dress?" reporters asked. "Because it represents the moment I chose myself. Every success followed that choice." Inside, the exhibition featured pieces from throughout her career, but the centerpiece was unexpected, the wedding dress she never wore when Ryan left. "I kept it," Clara explained, "as reminder that some endings are beginnings in disguise." Young designers studied it like a religious relic. "It's so simple," one said. "The best things are," Clara replied. Complexity is easy. Simplicity takes courage. That night, Damien proposed again. We're already married, Clara laughed. I want to marry you again. New vows for who we are now. Who are we now? Two people who've survived everything together. I want a promise to survive whatever's left. They married again the next month. Just them, a judge and their immediate family. Clara's vows. You saw me when I couldn't see myself. Loved me when I couldn't love myself. Chose me when I couldn't choose myself. For that, I choose you, again and always. Damien's vows. You taught me that love isn't possession, but permission. Not taking, but giving. Not winning, but building. For that, I build with you again and always. At 80, Damien's health began failing. Heart issues, the doctor said. Age, mostly. I want to die at home, he told Clara. You're not dying. We're all dying. I just have a timeline now. How long? Months, maybe a year. Clara held him as they both cried. I'm not ready, she said. Neither am I. But readiness is a luxury we don't get. What do we get? Time. However much, we get time. They spent his last year traveling to all the places their love had grown. The warehouse where her first show happened, the office where they'd first met, the beach where they'd renewed vows. Thank you, Damien said at each place. For what? For the memory. For the moment. For the meaning. He died on a Tuesday morning, holding Clara's hand, their children around them. His last words, worth everything. Clara knew he meant their life, their love, their choice to build rather than break. At his funeral, hundreds came. Business associates, artists, but mostly people whose lives had been touched by their love story. Clara spoke last. Damien Cross was known as a billionaire, but wealth isn't measured in money. It's measured in impact, in choices, in love given and received. By that measure, we were the richest people alive. He didn't save me from heartbreak. He showed me heartbreak was just compost for growth. He didn't complete me. He complemented me. He didn't give me wings. He gave me sky. I will miss him every day, but I will honor him by continuing to choose love over fear, creation over destruction, meaning over money. That's what he taught me. That's what he'd want. Not grief, but gratitude. Not ending, but continuation. The love story continues, even when one character exits. Because love like ours doesn't die, it transforms. Clara lived another 5 years. Quieter years, but full. She mentored young designers, including Amanda, who'd become a force in sustainable fashion. She wrote a memoir, The Woman Who Wasn't Wanted, How Rejection Became Resurrection. She spent time with grandchildren, now having children of their own. Tell us the story, they'd beg, the real story. So she would, about Ryan, who taught her what settling looked like, about Damien, who taught her what choosing looked like, about herself, who learned the difference. Was it worth it? The youngest asked. All the pain. Pain is just tuition for wisdom, Clara said, and wisdom is expensive, but worth every penny. Clara died at 85, peacefully, in the bed she'd shared with Damien, surrounded by the life they'd built. Her last words, I chose well. At her funeral, the fashion world mourned an icon, but her family mourned a woman who'd shown them that success without love is just failure with money. Amanda Hale gave the eulogy. Clara Cross took my father's worst decision, leaving her, and turned it into her best beginning. She showed that we're not defined by who leaves us, but by who we become after. She didn't just design clothes. She designed a life worth living. She didn't just build a business. She built a legacy of choosing love. She wasn't wanted by my father, but she was treasured by everyone who truly saw her. That's the difference between being wanted and being valued. One is temporary, the other is eternal. Clara Cross is eternal. The Clara and Damien Cross Foundation continues. Every year, it helps hundreds of women start over, start up, start strong. Their story is taught in business schools as a case study in resilience, in sociology classes as an example of chosen love versus forced partnership, in art schools as proof that pain can become beauty, but mostly it's told at kitchen tables, where women considering leaving find courage, where men learning to truly see find inspiration, where love that chooses daily finds validation. Ryan Hale is a footnote in Clara's biography. A single line. First marriage ended in divorce. But Damien Cross fills chapters, years, decades of chosen love. Because that's what matters in the end. Not who didn't want you, but who did. Not who left, but who stayed. Not who saw your surface, but who saw your soul. Clara Jensen became Clara Cross not through marriage but through choice. The choice to rebuild rather than remain broken. The choice to love again despite betrayal. The choice to become herself, fully and unapologetically. And in the end, that's all any of us can do. Choose. Choose better. Choose deeper. Choose truer. Choose love that sees us, accepts us, celebrates us. Choose partners who give us sky, not ceilings. Choose lives that mean something beyond bank statements. Choose stories worth telling. Clara chose. And that made all the difference. Every single beautiful, painful, triumphant difference. If you've made it through this entire journey, remember this. You are not defined by who couldn't see your worth, but by who you become when you finally see it yourself. Sometimes the person who breaks your heart is just clearing space for the one who will treasure it. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's the quiet triumph of a life well lived, love well chosen, and happiness well earned. Have you ever turned rejection into resurrection? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Ring the notification bell for more stories about second chances, true love, and the triumph of choosing yourself. Remember, you were always enough. You just needed someone with better eyes to see it. Until next time, choose wisely, love deeply, and never apologize for becoming who you were meant to be.